Welcome to IMC Live. If this is your first time joining us, we really appreciate you being here. This is the Industrial Marketing Collective, and it is a community built by and for industrial marketers. And we meet virtually twice a month for IMC Live. That's our interactive webinar where we share what we're learning, talk through challenges we're having, and help each other grow. So whether you're here to sharpen your skills, build your program, grow your career, or all of the above, you are in the right place and we are glad to have you. So just a few quick housekeeping things. Cameras are totally optional, but we do love seeing some bright and shiny faces, makes the whole thing feel more conversational. So if you want to turn it on, feel encouraged to do so. Use the chat freely to make friends, drop some thoughts, ask a question, just be nice. And if you do ask a question that we think would be good to have as a part of the conversation, we might even ask you to come on and ask it yourself if you're game. So just be aware of that. And finally, please, you all know, stay muted if you're not talking, just for the sake of the recording and the conversation and all that. So with that, back to you, Peyton.
Awesome, awesome. Well, welcome to IMC Live, the interactive webinar series hosted by the Industrial Marketing Collective. We're here to help you connect with your peers, sharpen your skills, and drive results in your work. Sounds great, right? I'm Peyton Warren, Marketing Director at Gorilla 76, the industrial marketing agency, and I'm one of your IMC Live hosts today. And I am very glad that you guys are here. It's Q4 2025. I feel like we all just need to let's just relax our shoulders a little bit, take a deep breath. If you're in the States, Thanksgiving is next week. So,
So close.
there's a lot going on right now, but you're doing great. I just want you to hear that from somebody, and everything's going to be okay through the end of the year. Maybe I just need to say that to myself, but if you needed to hear it, I'm here to say it for you. But I want to take a quick moment before we jump into the show to plug one of the many things that's going on at the start of next year, which is going to be the Industrial Marketing Summit. And we love gathering. Obviously, we do Industrial Marketing Collective Live every couple of weeks, but we like to get together in person too. And we do that once a year through the Industrial Marketing Summit. That's going to be happening March 3rd through 5th in Austin, Texas. And there is an entire conference attached to it, 16 sessions. We've got 3 in-depth workshops, networking events, and I hate the way networking event sounds, but parties also sounds a little bit off. But anyway, it's happening in Austin, March 3rd through 5th. You can learn more about it, get your passes, and go ahead and sign up for the email newsletter too, because we are sending out a few discount codes through the event. But Black Friday, we're gonna jump on that bandwagon. Industrialmarketingsummit.com is where it's at. So with that, let's get into the topic of today. If you've been getting any of the promo for this event, you know that we're going to be talking about positioning. And a lot of people might think that they have a positioning problem. And, why might you think that? Maybe your engagement's down, maybe your conversions are lagging, maybe the people that are filling out your forms just are not the right people. They're not your ideal customers that you had in mind. But maybe, just maybe, that problem isn't what you stand for. It's all in how you're communicating it, or maybe how you're not. So, what we're going to unpack today is how to tell when your messaging is missing the mark, why positioning might not actually be the real issue at hand, and what we can do as marketers to really put that positioning to work for us. And to help us dig in today, we've got Brendon Forrest. We love when Brendon joins us on IMC
Hey, hey,
Live.
hey.
Hey, hi, Brendon. And then, of course, we've got Alan co-hosting with me today, my ride or die here.
Every
But
day.
Brendon's going to challenge the idea that companies don't have positioning. He thinks that a lot of us do, but most of us just aren't using it effectively. So, a hot take coming up. Buckle up, sip on that coffee, go microwave it like I already have, and jump into the chat with your thoughts and questions. But Brendon, yeah, welcome back to IMC
Good to
Live
be here.
today.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Good to see all of
Yeah.
you. Happy Thursday. And yeah, it's almost Thanksgiving. I cannot wait. And I actually can't wait mostly for Friday because then you get leftovers. And I'm
Yes,
all about, the big Thanksgiving stacker.
the
Um,
turkey sandwich with
oh
the
yeah.
cranberry sauce.
And the stuffing and the gravy and the potatoes. Let's go.
Do you
Let's
make it
go.
just like Ross did?
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. It's sacred like that.
Yeah.
So to dive into the topic today, I was just curious if there is a company that has quote unquote done positioning, but they still aren't getting anything out of it. What do you feel like often is happening inside these companies that's making that messaging fall flat or just not get used?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think that kind of starts with an alignment problem, right? Like marketing kind of did their own thing in a silo, no company leadership, no sales input, no engineering input, no customer success input. And they kind of just like, hey, this is the new positioning, this is the new messaging, and all right, sales team, go and run with it. They don't give them any tools. Um, sales doesn't agree with it, so they don't use it. So they're going to fall back on, well, this thing works in my sales conversation, so I'm just going to keep saying it this way. Then you end up with like 15 messages instead of one really solid one. So I think it all starts in an alignment problem because you're not doing it together. And I think that might be one of the biggest mistakes is not treating positioning and messaging as a strategic company initiative instead of just, something that marketing does. So it really, in an ideal world, it should be driven by company leadership, president, CEO, owner. Marketing probably has got to be the one to carry the flag and the torch a little bit on it, but the leadership should be driving it forward and should be like paving the field so that it all works together.
So if you're the marketer and you're trying to decide whether it is that your messaging is the problem or it is an alignment issue, where do you start to try to figure out what your real problem is?
I just talk to sales. Like I think that's like in B2B manufacturing, like that's always the answer when there's not an alignment. Like it's the same thing. It's like you see all this like relationship drama on Reddit and Twitter and YouTube and stuff. It's like, well, yeah, because you don't talk to your spouse. It's the same thing. I was like, just go talk to sales. Like, like it's like pretty easy. Like why isn't it working for you? And come together and make a solution.
Yeah, I think that's an echo back to the conversation we had a couple weeks back with Kelly and on product marketing and just how important it is to have those relationships with folks inside the company and just know that you're all working towards the same thing. But I do think, like Brendon, when we were talking about this as we were preparing for today's conversation, one of the things that you said, because like I wrote the description for this topic, and you were like, I don't actually think people have like
Yeah.
a problem with positioning. And I guess like I almost want to like kind of bounce back to that and also just I see a lot of familiar faces in the meeting room today. So I know a lot of people here have a baseline understanding and then some of positioning. But can you give us just like a little bit of like a primer of like
Yeah.
what are we talking about when we say positioning, when we're
Yeah.
talking about messaging? Like what is that? And then if you
Mhm.
don't think that's missing, what's the
Yeah.
problem?
So my thinking of positioning as a concept is basically just like what is the context of you inside of your market, right? So who are you as a company? Who are the primary people that you sell to? Who are the primary people, companies that you compete with? What is your value prop? And what is that market that you're in? Like I think it's like pretty basic. That's kind of basically what April Dunford says, and obviously awesome. And I agree with that statement. And um it's yeah, but those are just like those are just words, right? Like we are a metal fabricator that serves the aerospace industry against these other companies. That's your position, but like it's hard to like take that forward. And I guess the other thing too, part of the positioning should be your value prop. Like what is the thing that actually makes it so that somebody wants to buy from you? I think that's where a lot of people have a disconnect in positioning is there's not a good value prop every time. Like I talk to a lot of manufacturing leaders, right? Like we talk to a lot of new clients, current clients at Gorilla, talk to a lot of folks here. Me and Joe Sullivan were just at MT Forecast out in Schaumburg, and we ran a positioning messaging workshop there. And pretty much like there wasn't a lot of people there, but there's like about 20 people in manufacturing, a mix of like senior sales and company leadership. Everybody knew what their position was. Like they knew like
Mm-hmm.
what market they play in, who their competitors are, what their primary product was. But like it's just like how do you describe the value that you have? And I think that's the messaging piece, right? Is like translating that market, that position that you have in the marketplace to the value prop to your end user.
Yep.
That's where I see a big gulf is not understanding how to describe your value proposition.
Yeah, connecting the dots
Yeah,
from
exactly.
the thing, the placement to what you actually provide in terms of benefits and like emotional
Yep.
value to peace of mind, whatever it is, all those um, things that are a little bit softer but really
Yep.
mean the most because I hear it all the time. Actually, I was just editing a video that Josh and I, Josh Rosman, hey, made the other day, and he mentioned, it's, business to business is still human to human.
It
And
is.
I
Yeah.
just think that's such an important thing to remember when we're in the B2B space, because you can't just be, oh, okay, we're B2B, like buttoned up, everything's tight, corporate. It's like, no,
Or
these are still people that you are selling to
yeah. So
on the
like
reg.
to answer like to tie the bow there. I almost think you could say the value prop is synonymous with your messaging. Like I think that is like the piece of what messaging is, and or at least the primary pieces. There's obviously components that go into that to really flesh it out. We could talk about that, but that's kind of like where I'd say like this is positioning is the context of the marketplace that you're in, and
Mhm.
your messaging is basically your value proposition.
Hmm. So going back to something you were talking about before, when you're having that conversation with sales, what are the signs, sales or otherwise, that you have either a positioning problem or an implementation problem where you need to start
Yeah.
putting up the red flags?
Yeah, I'd say if you like if you can determine a disconnect, I would say like you bring in a number of leads, right? Like a number of people come into your website, fill your form out, then sales doesn't close any of them or doesn't convert any of them to an opportunity. Or it's a very low amount. Like we should like that number should be pretty healthy. Like a person that fills out your form is like giving you some sort of indication that they are in need of your product and or service.
Hmm.
And if that is not converting into a sales meeting, so like a sales qualified lead or into like a quoted opportunity, yeah, you probably got to disconnect on what you're saying on your website and in your marketing versus what your sales team's saying once they get on the phone or in email with somebody, talking one on one about their specific project. So I think that'd be like the first indicator, like, okay, we definitely have an alignment problem because these aren't like converting like they should.
Yeah. Yeah. The marketing messaging isn't translating through
Yeah.
to like a sales opportunity
Yeah.
for sure.
And then like so like that's the quantitative measure. Then I just say like the qualitative measure is like you just get feedback from the sales team. Like none of these people are the right fit. So like either something's wrong with the marketing or something's wrong with the sales message, right? Like you haven't aligned on what the right fit is.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we've kind of started to toy around here with is the idea that there is either like there's an implementation problem. So say you have the positioning, but it's not being carried through everything. So obviously you've got um, maybe a source of truth document,
Mm-hmm.
but is that reflected in your homepage? Is that reflected
Mm-hmm.
in your sales deck? Or is it in a sales deck, but does anyone even reference it? Is anyone even aware of it? Um, I think like that's the piece that I'd really like to drill into a little bit more is um, let's talk about how we can make sure that this positioning that oftentimes marketing and sales have collaborated on and you've
Mm-hmm.
done a lot of work to like really like suss out and think through, but somehow it still is just sitting there collecting dust and not being put to use.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd like to turn this over to Alan and Brendon, you guys, and just like how do we fix that problem? That's a big problem, right? Like where do you
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, and I feel like on a easy answer is there a question that everyone in your group knows the answer to? And maybe that the easiest form of that question is, if you disappeared tomorrow, what would be wrong with the world? What would that do with your customers? What would that do to the vendors? What would that do to your competitors? You know, like what happens if you're not there? And if everyone knows the answer to that, then maybe there's a lot easier to align on those smaller things afterward because there's that big picture that everybody is able to grasp. But I don't know, Brendan, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say if it's not being implemented, it's probably not working, right? Like if something was working, somebody would implement it.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing that we've been working on here for our clients is, I think we have a really good positioning product here. And, we run the workshop and then, we were working with this big, like we call it the positioning one sheeter, but it just ended up being a lot of nice words on a spreadsheet that was hard to execute. So we've come in and we've added to that and we've started to create a messaging implementation guide. And it's like a one-stop shop that somebody can go to and you can, build it for whatever size company you have, right? Like you might have a company that is a single product or a single service, maybe you're like a welding shop. Well, okay, you got one thing, like you do welding. Or maybe like you are an equipment manufacturer and you have a bunch of different product lines. You can make one of these for each of your product lines, for each of your salesmen. Jared, probably another conversation we have to have on distribution. Like, how do you actually do that when you like are repping like thousands of products? Maybe a little more difficult. But like, just like giving like an easy guide that people can kind of riff off of. Because I know like the sales team's going to want to put their own spin on it, but are you giving them like the language on like this is what the actual problem is that we're solving? This is the ideal outcome that we are promising we can deliver with our product or service. These are the key features that go into this. Not all of them. I know we all have products and services with dozens of features. People get lost in that, and that's probably something for a brochure or a product guide or something. But on your main messaging, like what are like the 9 key features that are different for you that lead to a new capability for your customers that leads to that ideal outcome. And then we kind of just like we kind of take all of that and we combine it in a bunch of different ways. Me and Al have been working on this with a couple of the clients that we work on together. And, it turns into an elevator pitch, a couple of boilerplates, right? Like for like a trade show or for like a press release. We build out a tech spec for a sales one slider, right? Like we're not going to make the whole deck for you right now, but we can at least get you one slide to get that initial message out. And then find your favorite salesperson and ask them to go and use that message inside of sales conversations and prove that it works. And if it doesn't, just iterate on it. I think that's the one thing is like once you build something in digital marketing, like you just do it again, make it better. We're not writing a book or we're not like doing like, big printed things. Obviously, some of us are, but a lot of the stuff in digital marketing, ads, LinkedIn posts, YouTube videos, messaging, positioning, website copy, it can all be changed tomorrow. Like if it doesn't work,
Super
change it.
flexible.
It's so easy.
Mhm.
So you just got to find the person that's willing to work with you to get that message right. So, when they're having a conversation with a new lead or a new prospect, like there's an aha moment, like, oh man, these guys actually understand my problem and they actually have what I think is a solution. And that meeting then hopefully closes into a quoted opportunity. So that I just like finding ways to implement it easily and find somebody that you can partner with inside of your company to execute that message. And then I also say like test it in social, right? Like talk about the problems that you're solving. Update your website homepage copy. Change like do the thing where it's like you change one thing at a time and just see what effect it has. Like if you change your homepage hero headline, did you have a slight uptick in leads? Did you add a problem section to your homepage? Did that have any effect on the business? And just do little changes over time and just see what makes it better, what makes it worse, and then fix it.
Yeah. I think when it comes to stuff like that, it's like you've got to have the right tech involved to like monitor it. So like, say if you're like, okay, I want to change the hero tagline on my homepage, you can use free tools, even like Microsoft Clarity, to like get a screen recording, heat maps of your website. And so say you do change something on a landing page or your homepage, are folks like, is your web page a little stickier? Do they stay around
Even just
longer? Do
like
they
yeah, just
scroll just a little deeper?
go on
Um,
Google Ads. Like, did your time on page slightly increase? Did you
mhm.
get another page per session?
Yeah.
Did more people that landed on the homepage go to the contact us page in their session. Like those are those easy, like free things that we can look at to determine if our messaging is having an effect on the marketing side. And then, look at it qualitatively on the sales side when they're talking about it in their sales scripts.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, Joel kind of echoed that in the chat, saying that it's important to iterate and not throw away. Joel, would you want to come on and kind of talk about how you've been iterating on your positioning over time?
Sure.
On the
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah. I say, yeah, trying to come up with this. Actually, with the website, we fully overhauled our website end of 2024. So looking at that, like coming into it, our branding, we've got a few different brands under an umbrella, and I kept seeing in our analytics that some of our existing legacy brands were constantly high visit pages. So they had a ton of brand value, was my assumption, that people are looking for that brand name still. So even though as a company, we wanted to pivot to presenting as the umbrella group that, we're bigger than these individual elements, there's still value to those existing ones. So I overhauled those pages and made them like dive into that legacy brand history and actually made something of the page. The page was kind of a dumping ground for PDFs, and I turned it into like, no, we're cross-linking to backlinks to other, here's the products, or across the company lines, here's how that fits into other things. Especially our lighting brand name also is the same brand that covers our arms and metal poles, and those products don't get as much. So I was able to leverage that existing brand name and then push the education side of here's the other things we can do. And yeah, we're still hugely popular of when, where people are landing to. They're searching for that term, but I'm seeing that increase in the stickiness on the website. People are sticking around longer, going through more of the engaged sessions on Google Analytics. Those have shot up consistently. I think I saw somewhere around, I'm averaging double the number of form submissions from prior to doing the website to afterwards.
That's a good return.
Yeah. So like in a case like that, Joe, and I'd love to hear what your strategy was, but like you can almost treat those brand pages as like mini home pages, right? Each of those brands has their own message, right? Like they have their own problem that they solve. There's a specific ideal outcome that each of those brands derive. And then you just like have to kind of do the thing where you synthesize all of that on, the main company page, right? Here's the main problem that our whole umbrella solves. And then I think the challenge with umbrellas, right, is like, how do you remove all of the corporate jargon? All the things that investors love to hear, but customers don't understand at all. Are you actually writing to your customers? So that's the other thing too out of this is like just plain language. Like, we don't got to be like engineering doctorates when we're writing. We don't got to like write to Wall Street. Like just write to your customers in plain language, like, seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade reading levels. Not because they're dumb, but because people don't got the time to deal with the bullshit. Sorry if that makes the podcast explicit.
We're going to have to mark it explicit now.
First beep we've ever had to have on this show.
No, never, never. No, I mean, I think for me, like what I'm hearing all of this, and I still just keep going back to problems. I'm really normally an optimist, I promise, but I keep kind of going back to like these issues, and I just think like, okay, great, we have a framework, we've gone through the process, all of these things, but like still, like it's not, it's not. Clicking. And I've just seen it happen so many times. Even with former clients at Gorilla, where it's like we go through this huge exercise. We have leadership involved. And, so we've done this like just so often because we're an agency, right? But and so maybe I'd love to hear from some of the folks who are in-house and just like how that whole process has gone from like starting that exercise, if you've facilitated it yourself without a third party, to like, okay, now we have this resource that's been created. Like, do you know if folks reference it? Like, or are folks coming? I guess my question to like the class here would be, are folks referencing the resources that you've helped put together when they're creating something new? Or like, how are you ensuring that they're like referring back to all this like deep strategic work that you've done to make sure that it's getting like layered into everything.
Hmm.
Because I've seen in the past where, we might have a strategic positioning document. It's a one pager. It's super digestible, and then still like no one opens it. So I guess my question to the folks here, and maybe this is just a point of reflection, but like, do folks even know where that resource is?
Hmm.
And to me, it's like an old habits die hard kind of situation, right? Like we're all humans, we all take the easy path. Like there's not a single one of us on this call and in our companies that is like, I'm going to take the high ground on everything and I'm going to do the hard work. And like you know, two paths in the woods. Like, yeah, we're all taking the easy one. Like I know we all say like we're gonna take the hard one, but we're all gonna take the easy one. Like I want to walk down the path that doesn't have a bunch of sticks in my eyes. Like that's just like how it is. So I think on the marketing side of things, like you have to implement it into campaigns right away and into the website. Like we have
Hmm.
we have to force the issue on the marketing side of things with our website copy, with our campaigns, with our content. Like everything has to talk to the new messaging. And like we said, like you can iterate it on it. The other thing though is like you have to get it in front of people. Like just having one doc, people aren't going to open documents. Like we know this. Like we make all these documents, and you can probably go and look and see like nobody opens
Makes me feel
documents.
so glad just to hear you say that out loud, Brendan, and like just
Yeah,
almost like it put the skunk on the table
people
again.
don't open documents. That's just like we all know it. Like we all make the lead magnets, we all make the documents, we all make the sales materials. Nobody opens it. Like we all make the leave behinds. How like our salespeople are always craving for leave behinds. How many of our customers actually look at the leave behind? Probably that many, maybe this many. I don't know. One or zero. It's binary. Um, but like I know like you probably have some sort of like internal sales meeting once a week or once every 2 weeks. What are you talking about in that meeting? Are you
Mm.
talking about the new positioning? Or are you just gonna be like, yeah, marketing's got nothing? Well, no, like this is another rep that you can get in to talk about the new messaging. Hey, this is a problem that we are like the main problem we're trying to like solve. Like just get in front of the sales team. Like, are you going on sales calls? Are you talking about this with the sales team with windshield time? Like we have opportunities that you just have to like beat it into people's heads sometimes. Like what do they say? Like you need to hear something like what, 7 to like 1,000 times to remember something?
Seven
So
to a
like
thousand. Yeah.
your one-time document that nobody's going to read, that's why nobody implements anything, is because the marketing team's not always talking about it. Like we should be chirping about messaging all the time. That's the only thing I want to talk about.
Y-
Hmm.
Yes, we have to champion it. I
Yeah,
cannot, I just agree with that so wholeheartedly, Brendan. Like, I think that's been the biggest miss is like,
yeah,
okay, so you create this resource now. How are you just, not, it's not just external of like, okay, I need my customer, I need my prospect to see this 7 to 1,000 times. I
yeah,
need the internal team to
yeah,
see this everywhere. I
yeah,
need the internal team to like just get to the point where it is that like
yeah.
almost just like default response because you don't want people to sound like they're scripted. Like
Right.
that's icky. You want
Yeah,
people to be able to speak to the messaging in their own words.
yeah,
It's not about controlling and micromanaging. It's just about um, offering direction. And
Hmm.
folks are only going to be able to do that if you continue to train and teach, and then also take in feedback from them about
yep,
what's been like working and not going back to like that qualitative
yep, exactly.
feedback. And I
Right.
think that's where you'd really start to see like that's where you're really going to start to know like okay, is our positioning, is our messaging working? Because like you can create all this stuff, but if you're not using it and testing it and like getting this feedback, like how do you really know? You just going to go back to the drawing board just because you've like, oh, it's not working, but like no one's using it? Well, you could be scrapping something. I think Joel said this earlier. Iterate, don't throw away. It's the same thing. I think sometimes we just throw things away because we're like, oh, no one likes it.
Yeah, and I feel like that also relates to what Kelly said last time about using marketing tactics internally. Like you have to facilitate and show sales why this is advantageous for them to use and why it's worth breaking their old habits. And if it isn't able to do that, then maybe it is that you have a positioning problem that you need to massively iterate on to make it to where it is that way. Or maybe it's just that you haven't given it to sales in a way that they're able to easily use, like they want to copy and paste and make it as simple as
Yeah,
possible. Just like for customers in the buying cycle, you have to make it as easy for the
yeah.
sales team as well.
And like, how are you positioning the new positioning? How are you messaging the new messaging? Right? Like Dale just kind of talked about this in the chat, right? Like salespeople are feral cats on caffeine that do their own thing. Uh, what is the problem that sales team have, right? They have like crazy numbers that they have to hit. They make good money doing it, but like they have a lot of pressure. Like, you know, a lot of their income is derived from commission, and oh man, you know, this marketer's got some ideas about messaging, but I got to feed my family too. And I'm going to use the messaging that at least gets me to my quota that I know is going to work. So like you have to like understand like the problem that they're having. Like salespeople probably staying up at night, like, oh man, how am I going to meet my quota? Like quarter's coming up. Like we got to hit the number, and I don't
Hmm.
know if this new messaging is going to do it. So like you have to like understand the problem, and then what is the ideal outcome? We exceed the quota. So like you know what is that? What is that bridge? How are you getting over that hump of that problem that the sales team's having? Like we have to market our marketing internally so that people want to use it. You can't just like create a document, email it to the team, and be like, there you go. We're all good. Doesn't
Mhm.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to do an entire show sometime. Maybe we do like a panel on just like this internal marketing component because I think that's like the piece that makes like a good marketer a great marketer. You can create all of these things in a vacuum, but if no one's going to like, if you can't collaborate, if you can't get people like galvanize people to like get on board with it, if you're not actually going to be able to like work well with others, then you might as well just be screaming into the void. So I think that's just like a huge piece.
Mhm.
And yeah, little plug for a future topic potentially if that's interesting to you or if you've got some stories, DM me on LinkedIn
Yeah,
or what's our email, Brendon podcast at
that's it.
gorilla76.com. You can always
That's
email
right.
us there too. But yeah,
That's a good
great.
one. Yeah. I've just got like a hypothetical, I think that might kind of help bring stuff together here. So let's say that we are at a small manufacturing or mid-size, whatever it may be, and we've got some positioning that we think is good, but maybe isn't fully implemented. And then we have a new VP come in who says, you got to prove to me that I shouldn't completely scrap all this and start over.
Mm.
What do you do to decide how to work with that person and whether to do what they say or to defend your current positioning?
I mean, I always see like the personnel.
Step one in the chat. Step one, fight back the rage.
Yeah,
This is good.
there's that, Rachel. I will say
Step
like
two.
you just have to like frame this kind of stuff in your mind. Like new personnel transitions are they're risky, but there's also an opportunity there, right? Like there's like the SWOT piece of it, right? There's the opportunity and there's a threat. The threat is like this person doesn't know what they're talking about and they're gonna totally scrap everything, especially like they come in like a VP or director level. But there's also an opportunity, right? Like you get some fresh eyes on something. Like I think a lot of times in manufacturing, it's really easy for us to get into the rut. Like, oh, this is the way we've always been doing things since 1973. It's like, well, the world's changed a little bit in the last 52 years. Um, but sometimes you get into a rut. So like bringing in somebody that's new to the company, maybe new to the industry, they maybe could provide some fresh light. So I wouldn't like necessarily like push back on everything, but have a conversation and test some stuff out. That was quick math. I was actually really surprised I was able to do that.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. Yeah, I mean, I think to your question, Alan, what I think about is, the messaging that you've created. So you have a new person coming onto your team, new leadership. Well, you created it from somewhere. Where?
Yeah.
Go reference back to those customer interviews, pull in those customer quotes, like help educate them, show them where you listened to the customer because a lot of times like someone's coming in from the outside because your company needs maybe some new perspective and that's healthy. That's great. I love people with diverse backgrounds and like the value that they can bring to the team. But also like if you're just coming in guns a-blazing ready to burn it all down, well, you do still need to listen and learn. And I think that anyone who's being hired at an executive or a VP level wants to learn too. So like, maybe you can take the initiative, another way of getting marketing a seat at the table and like just show your work. How did you build this? How did you create this? Pull in those customer interviews, pull in the social platforms where you're listening in, pull in the insights from the different trade shows. go to like the metrics and show them like the difference of like, okay, here's how our homepage was working before and here's how it's not. And you know, you don't have to get into all of the nitty gritty, like, okay, I want to show you this chart, but like tell them the story of what happened from like before to after. And then if they want to like double click into something, you can be like, okay, yeah, no, I'll grab this report to show you like exactly how it changed. But you know, you already have an awareness. And it could just start with a simple meeting with that person to show your work.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking that might also provide the opportunity to, if it is the case you have good messaging and it's just an implementation, like sales just doesn't like using it because they are too lazy or whatever it is, maybe that new sheriff in town is gonna be able to finally get them to start acting right and using the updated messaging because they've got to impress the new boss.
I've seen that happen a lot with not necessarily messaging so much, but with like just CRM adoption.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah.
That if you're struggling with CRM adoption, maybe just hire some new leadership and woo, it's amazing what can happen. It's awesome. I do want to talk a little bit about sales decks, Brendan,
Yeah.
if you're down to get into
Let's
that.
do it. Yeah.
You know, like what are your thoughts on marketing and getting involved with those sales decks? And I know you said you like to start with just like one slide, but
Yeah.
like maybe could you just tell us a little bit more about like how you develop from there?
Yeah, I think it's basically like the same story everywhere. Like I really like the past framework, right? Like problem, agitate, solution. So I always like leading with problem. Like we have to like ground ourselves in our customer's reality. So I think all good messaging starts at understanding the problem. I really like how Brendan Hufford talks about the problem too. He has the whole like named problem IP framework kind of thing where it's like we know our customer's problem. Well, let's name it and we'll claim that name. It's almost something you could trademark. So he talks about checkbox marketing is his big one. Are you just doing things to like, check the box off for marketing? That's a problem that a lot of marketers have. So like what how can you frame that for your clients? Like one of our clients, we talk about the prototype to production gap. Like there's nobody that could solve that gap right between, well, we need prototyping, but we also need production. So we have to go to like multiple different shops to do that. And, the design tends to change over time. But if you go to one shop that can solve that gap, well, now we got a solution, right? One-stop shop. Um, so I like to think about like, I think too often sales decks start with, here's the history of our company. It's like, I love history. Nobody cares about your company. They really don't. Like your customers don't care. They care about their problems, right? And they care about like this thing I got to get done. I got to get this machine live. I got to get this product launched. I got to do this. I got to do that. So I think leading with, hey, here's the reality I know you have, right? And here's the problem I know you have. Here's some maybe trends that are happening in the marketplace that are affecting you, right? Like I know reshoring's happening. I know, AI and automation are big, Internet of Things. I think a lot of us deal with like the labor gap and labor shortage and tariffs and like, a whole host of bigger trend issues that are happening in the economy and in manufacturing, safety and all this stuff. So can you talk about your problem and the greater trends together to really like set the groundwork? Then we
Lead with that.
lead with that and
Hmm.
and put some agitation like here's like the bad thing that's going to happen if you don't solve your problem, right? Like bad stuff's going to happen. Then let's start talking about the solution, right? But don't just lead right into like all the list of features you have. Talk about like what is that ideal outcome that we can promise you. I think that is like the keystone of your value prop. What is that key promise? That could almost be its own slide. We will help you achieve X by this date. you know Ultimately you can do this. Now you can do this. Like that is our promise statement. That's our value. That's like the main thing that we can do for you. And then, the next couple slides are, well, here's how we're going to enable you to do this. And here's, how I kind of build it out. I have like a little like value stack framework pyramid kind of thing where it's like at the very tippy top is my ideal outcome. Off of that, three, three only, like enabled capabilities that your customer now has. I really limit it. Like I know we could probably do a lot more, but like people can't remember that, and it's hard. Like you don't want this thing to go on for an hour either. Like we want to be in and out on these sales decks. We just don't have the time. So like, what are the top three things that you can enable your customers to do to get to that promise? And
Yeah.
then what are the only like the three differentiated features you have for each of those capabilities? So you end up with like a stack of like 9 features at the bottom, three outcomes or three capabilities that kind of sit there that all support this main promise. And that's your value stack. That's your value prop. That's your
And
message.
and I
And
think like the nice thing, it reminds me back when we were talking in the pre-show here about just journalism. It's like this like inverted, well, they do the inverted pyramid. So it's like what's most important is right here
yeah,
at the top. Well, that's what's most important is like their problem and then how you're
yep,
starting to solve it. And so what I'm hearing from you just walking through that, Brendan, is like you're creating a deck that allows the sales rep to actively listen and then kind of choose the own adventure and like tap into the specific features or capabilities that maybe are more relevant to that person. And because you're keeping, focused on the the customer, the prospect, uh, you're able to have, just a more like natural conversation and dig deeper into the things that are really going to make a difference for them and ultimately like move the deal forward. And, a lot of that comes down to the salesperson's delivery.
mhm,
But like the deck enables that
yeah.
in like a really nice way. So
And
cool way to
I
pull
think
it through.
designing it that way too, like allows for natural discovery to happen throughout the conversation. I think a lot of times, like when you lead with our company, like here's the good thing about our company, it's hard to have a conversation about that because you're just telling them like this is how good our company is. It's a thing in writing, right, where it's like show, don't tell, right? We want to show them that we can provide value to them. We don't want to just tell them, right? So
Hmm.
if we lead with them, if we lead the conversation talking about them and their problems, we can discover like, hey, we typically see this is the main problem that a lot of people in your situation have. Is that something that you have too? And then ask them more detailed questions about the problem. Like they'll tell you. And then you can lead the conversation into, well, here's the ideal end state that we can help provide. Is that something that is right to you? And like, actually, we need it by this date. Well, you can start getting more data on how do you build the deal then. And if you build that way, like it just leads to better conversations, like you said, Peyton.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know we're just about at time, and we bounced around a lot today. So hopefully, we didn't necessarily follow our outline, but we accomplished our outline. So hopefully, everyone's been able to keep on track. But I think like just to kind of like some things up, your messaging might be missing the mark. That's true. And you could maybe know that if your engagement and conversion rates are seeming low, your leads aren't matching up with your ideal firmographics, your sales calls feel like you're getting feedback from the sales team that like it feels like the people that you just handed off to them had no idea what they were going to be talking about. So like your marketing, your sales conversation, it's not following through. You might also know if your messaging is missing the mark if your team can't articulate that why, like the question Alan brought up earlier, would your customer even notice if you were gone tomorrow? Like, if your team can't answer that question and doesn't know why you guys make a difference in your prospects, your customers' lives, and that's an issue too.
Yeah. And I'll say
So
like, Peyton, I'll jump in there and I'll say like the bad outcome of not implementing good positioning and messaging is you become a commoditized product and you end up in a catalog and you are fighting for low margins and low revenue. And now
mhm.
you're talking to like a big volume game. Uh, that's a place that a lot of companies are at. That's not a place that I want to be at as a marketer. I want to lead my team from the front with good messaging. So I get good margins, I get good revenue, and I don't have to fight and scrape, all these other like big name corporations for a seat at the table. I'll make my own seat. I'll make my own table.
And this, I know we brought up distributors and channels just a little bit earlier, but like there are so many manufacturers who are not doing this. And if you are doing this and you're equipping your external reps with this sort of information, they're hungry for it too. And again, just like have those feedback loops with them. And, I think you can see some lift from that alone too. But yeah, so it might not be that your positioning or your messaging is undefined. It could just be that you're not implementing it fully. And I think we've talked through a lot of ideas of how you could start to do that more today. Definitely want to challenge everyone who's on this call and who's listening to just take more ownership of that implementation and specifically like the training your sales team and like being that champion inside of like your positioning and the work that you've done. Like just to, like be proud of that and know that it was good stuff
Yeah,
and
don't let it die in OneDrive.
Mm.
don't let it die in OneDrive.
Let your
Um,
positioning live.
Yes.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Brendon.
Yeah.
Everyone
Heck
here
yeah.
at Gorilla loves positioning, but I don't think there's anyone that nerds out about it quite as much as you do. So thanks for joining us.
Heck yeah. Glad to be here.
Nerd.
So I know folks can hear from you on the Manufacturing Marketer
Yeah.
podcast quite often, but the best way to reach out to you would
Yeah,
be
I'd say
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn's good, or my Gorilla address, first name dot last name at Gorilla76. And I will do a little plug here. Me and Wes Temple are going to be talking sales enablement at the workshop at the Industrial Marketing Summit. Might be talking
Yes.
a little bit about messaging in that. So if you want to hear more, get your all access pass and hang out with me in the workshop.
Well, what a great transition,
Yeah.
right? Segue there. Yeah, yeah. Gorilla is leading a workshop in the Industrial Marketing Summit. And again, March 3rd through 5th, industrialmarketingsummit.com. And if you haven't got your tickets yet and you're here live, well, we are going to jump on that bandwagon of a Black Friday deal. It's not going to necessarily touch early bird prices. So those early birds, you did get the worm, but we're going to be dropping a discount code. So join the email list at industrialmarketingsummit.com and we'll send that out next week. Um, if you want to keep conversations going between now and March 3rd and all of the time in between, well, you can join us on Industrial Marketing Collective. We're on Circle, and there's discussion boards there where we're having more and more conversations all the time, and I'd love to see you there. If you want in, just send me a note, send Alan a note on LinkedIn, and we can get you invited to this exclusive and free community. So very excited to keep the conversations going there. But again, everyone, thanks for joining,
Yeah.
and
Good to be around.
we will see you in a couple weeks. Have a happy Thanksgiving.